Hey.
You're on mute.
Hi, good evening. Very sorry for not able to find the link.
No, no, no. No
Only got
worries. No worries. It's going live on YouTube, but we are recording this because we want to be able to use it for our case studies and then send it out to a much larger group. So while we will, hopefully have people joining or not, I mean, the purpose of the webinar today was to just record this for our own, for our own content, to be honest. So I don't think, Ritu, we should wait for too long. We should get started. So once you hit the recording button, usually what happens when I start saying welcome, then somebody will say your call is being now recorded.
I'm
So,
sorry.
no,
Hi.
it happens with everybody, not just with.
It won't happen today. We are not recording on this. We've started recording on live on YouTube, so we can start our chat and then let's see how it goes.
Awesome. So it will be on YouTube for posterity. That is really wonderful, and we'll share the link once it's there. You can also share it with others. So, good evening, and Ritu, you can set us off, and then I can dive right in.
Thank you so much, Aarti, Anjani, and Bishwadeep for joining the coffee chat today. It's a pleasure and also a privilege of having all the three of you here together. Like Aarti has mentioned, our objective is to do this for the sector to understand how both the sides function in a board setting in a non-profit and social sector. I'll start by introducing the three of you. First, Aarti, of course, does not need an introduction, but to be formal, Aarti is a founder of Governance Counts and also a co-founder for Women on Boards initiative. She's helping nonprofits strengthen their boards. She also leads Whiteboard and I Volunteer initiative, offering pro bono strategic support for senior corporate professionals to the social sector. Welcome, Aarti.
Thank you.
Next up is Bishwadeep Ghosh, is a country director and managing trustee at Water for People, India. He brings over 30 years of experience across grassroots and international development organizations, including 18 years in funding roles. Welcome to the Coffee Chat, sir.
Thank you.
Last but not the least, Anjani Madhavi is a treasurer at the World Food Program, WFP India, serves on the advisory board.
It's Water for People.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. And serves on the advisory board of Water for People India. Is that
Both the same. Both the
Both
same.
have the same acronym, yeah.
Sorry.
Don't blame you.
My bad. I'll start again. Anjani Madhavi is a treasurer and serves as the advisory board member of Water for People India and is an alumna of our WoB cohort 2. She brings 25 years of experience in value-based leadership, product strategy, and delivery across the fintech sector. Welcome to the Coffee Chat, Anjani.
Thank you, Ritu.
Okay, Ritu, I'll get started. So thank you both for joining this chat today. I want to kick us off by, of course, talking to Anjani. Really, I mean, I have known you as a participant at WoB, and I'm sure I'm very envious of Bishwadeep, who probably knows you a little bit better now since you've been involved with them longer. And I know you live in Bangalore, and so, we must make it a point to try and meet Anjani, despite all the difficulties that Bangalore presents. But I want to start us off by really, Anjani, talking to you about why did you even consider a program like this, and what inspired you to? Were you looking for something like this? Did somebody send something to you? What was the trigger in your mind when you signed up?
Yeah, so I should talk about how I bumped into Water for People, Women on Boards to start with. I have a friend who runs an NGO. Her name is Malini Parmar. She was my classmate at IIM Calcutta. And she got this and she sent the link to all the girls group in IMC for our batch, saying, would you be interested? And very strangely, I realized this is what I was looking for. Ability to, I think whenever you're in corporate, that is one vacuum that you always have, saying that, am I doing anything for the society to start with? So then when I thought, when I looked at it, I said, okay, fine, let me just enroll. And it so happens for the first cohort, I was delayed. So when I reached out, they said, sorry, the cohort is full. And that's when I said, okay, fine. Then I kept waiting for cohort 2 and immediately I applied. So yeah, I was waiting for a program like this, and not just me, I'm sure many. And I keep referring some of those guys into one cohort or the other. I and Just the fact that you want to see the other world, which I now know is not necessarily the other world, it is the world. You want to see the other world, and you want to see what you can do to be able to help. And what I realized is you learn much more than what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for starting us off, Anjani. We're going to come back to, that and how you sort of have seen yourself engaged with the program. I'm going to ask Bishwadeep to say, and I've been part of the sector for a very long time. I have tried to look at boards and governance in the sector from the board lens also for a very long time. And I always find that there is a healthy skepticism about the role that boards can actually play. Uh, but there is a lot of optimism in terms of the potential that boards have and board members have. Whether legal or advisory is a technicality, we don't need to get into that. But Bishwadeep, what was your motivation to, sort of raise your hand and say, okay, let me explore if there is someone here that one can, talk to and figure out if they share an interest in what WFP is doing?
Right, Aarti. So you are absolutely right that boards in non-profits, especially in times like these, play a very critical role. And from our organization point of view, it's a dual structure entity, bit complex. Uh, it was very important for us to get the combination right. And we've been privileged to have, when I joined Word for People in 2020, the board, there's already eminent people board in present, but there's a 3-year term, 2 terms of 3 years each, and they were rolling off sometimes in 2022. And that made me slightly jittery. Now, what am I going to do? Where am I going to find these board members? And so I was given a task by the board to, we have a manual that has process to identify based on where we want to be, what we want to do, identify good people who can serve in the board. So I didn't know much about women on boards till I met Gaurav actually in one of the events in Delhi. And I know him from before, and I shared my angst with him, like, what do I do now? So then he mentioned about women for boards. And the concept was very fascinating for me because we were looking for people specifically from the corporate and the skepticism that you mentioned because been in the sector for a long time and for
Yeah.
good reason. And partly it stems from my own experience. So we wanted to be sure. So it's not a agenda driven. It is not about bringing in some format and trying to test it here. So a very specific need was there. So we needed somebody who understood development, who are passionate, committed. Their credentials, because they have come through this, it is already established. So that is not a worry at all. But what worked for us was the inclination for the development sector. And of course, there's a long process. ISDM introduced us to Dasra. First, both of you interviewed us actually to see if we are suitable for your candidates
Yeah.
rather than the other way around. So that instilled some kind of confidence that there's a good match in terms of values and how we are looking at things. And of course, the profiles that were shared, I wish we could work with all of them, but we are so happy to have not one but two members from Women of Both, Anjani and Manju, and both from Bangalore. So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I'm just going to, ask you to continue a little bit, and I should have led with that, which is I think there are different types of organizations, Vishwadeep, in the sector. Some are service delivery, some are advocacy, some are a combination of both, and things like that. So, if you can tell our audience a little bit about, what for people, you already alluded to a slightly complex structure and so on. But just broadly, what does it do? What is the nature of work? That will give us some context to the kind of board and the kind of people that you have as we progress on this conversation.
Right. Yeah, I think I started with that. I mean, why I said our structure was complex because Water for People was born out of the American Water Works Association.
Right.
Right. So with a vision of very basic that we envision a world where everybody has access to water and sanitation services. Right. So it's not nothing big to ask for, but if you look at the numbers, still 2 billion people globally do not have these services. And
Yeah.
today's day and time, that seems unacceptable and is unacceptable to many of us. So keeping that in mind, the operations in India started in 96, and we established a branch office in 2007, and we registered a Indian trust in 2008. So we became a dual entity, and so we are unified by a common vision, mission, and values. But from all compliance legal point of view, we keep a arm's length distance between the two entities. So people are placed across both. And what we do, as the name suggests, we try to get water to people. It sounds simple, but that also becomes very complex in today's time because in many of the vulnerable areas that we work in, let's say in Sundarbans, which is a climate hotspot, cyclone affected area, or in Maharashtra, which is a drought prone area, so there's too much water, too less water, or too polluted water is what we say. And to solve for this, it has to be very contextual. So we dig deep at the community and try to understand through their lens what it takes, what are the bottlenecks, and see what kind of solutions that can be brought in so that they get this safe water, adequate water all through the year, just like you and I do in cities, right? But it's not the same in rural areas. Although for cities, also cities like Bangalore, we have a big problem. But yeah, that is what we started to do. And primarily for 10 years, we worked with a community facing model. And the impact model we call everyone forever, again, two simple terms that we don't want to leave anybody behind. And whatever services we create through the projects, that should last forever. It's not a one time thing. And when Jal Jeevan Mission came from the government with a very similar kind of ambition, and we thought that there is no point in spending our limited resource in duplicating the work of the government. So why don't we also work with the government to make that program work better? Because that is also public funds, and we are also working with public funds. So now we have a two-pronged strategy. One, we work directly with the community where we are trying to generate learning, generate evidence for new kind of solutions that are there for ensuring water security. And also we are working with the government at a district and state level to see how we can strengthen the system so that when we exit, ultimately it is the panchayats and the government system. Constitutionally, they are mandated, they have the resources, but there is weakness in terms of capacities or knowledge, and that is what we try to work with them to provide. Yeah. So that's a slightly longer story to what we do.
Thank you so much. Anjani, I'm going to come to you now. So, what were the sort of outcomes you expected out of the program when you signed up for it? How was the journey, and what did you feel at the end of the program? Both, I'd like you to look at it to start with from a personal lens, because that's an interesting story also for people like you who are out there who are considering the program. And of course, since you were in cohort 2, and so since that we've made some additions, some adaptations to the program based on what people have, the participants have suggested. So some of it is different, but a lot of it continues to remain fairly similar to what we'd started off with. But just from your personal engagement with the program, what was it that how did you engage with it? What was helpful? What could have been better? Both. I mean, all of that is useful.
Yeah, thanks for this question, Aarti. Actually, if I have to ask myself, why did I join this program? Like I told, I think one thing was to just give back.
Yeah.
Give back to the society. The give back to society, I really don't know what to do. So, you know what, you're in the corporate sector, you go and do this donation here, that donation there, and you keep asking yourself, is this enough, right? Or is this it? Then the other one was, yeah, maybe try to understand NGOs more from a closer perspective if you're on the board and see actually what happens within. So these were the two reasons why I joined WOB.
Yeah.
And when I joined, at least at the end of the cohort, I think my whole understanding was completely changed. It is not about giving back. You know what? It's taking even more, because you start learning. And what I loved is the way you brought in so many founders of NGOs to talk, and each one was giving their experience. And, at some lens, you only talk about education for children. I think that's the easiest for most of us in the corporate. Okay, ensure that 10 kids get educated, 20 kids get educated, and then you're done. But there are so many sectors, like water for people, for instance. It's like like Bishwa was saying just now, is like in cities, we don't even realize that there can be no water. Even if there is no water, all that you do is call up a tanker and it comes and gives you water. From where, how, you have no clue, right? Having just the availability of water, and number two is availability of quality water. So a lot of things which you take for granted, you suddenly realize, no, they're not the same. And then, I remember one person who sort of deeply touched me was the guy, sorry, I missed his name, but he was in Mumbai working with slum kids
Ashok
doing
Rathod.
sports. Yeah,
Ashok Rathod.
sport,
Yeah.
right,
That's
sports
true.
with them. So there are so many ways to really bring people together, and it's not just one or two ways. I think that was one big learning. And like I said, yeah, I learned so much. And Aarti, your sessions on governance, that was completely a black box for me. So when we heard you and you talk about governance, it was like, oh wow, so much happens behind the scenes, right? So just the fact that there are people working on a million things across the country, I think that opened my eyes to what all you can do. And number two, wash sector, that's where we are, water for people. So I didn't even know the term called wash. And suddenly I realized it's water, sanitary hygiene, and everything. I said, oh my God, there is one big sector over here. So overall, I think it is an amazing journey. I am definitely different from what I started with. And I have learned so much more. And I see close up the difficulties of people working, trying to make other people's lives better, but what all they sacrifice to do that. It could be with respect to funding. And like Bishwa was talking about, originally I thought water for people was a straight, direct impact. Go ensure that you make water available for 1,000 people, 10,000, a million, 2 million. Then you realize that lot of forces are acting on the same thing. For instance, Jal Jeevan Mission. There is government also acting on it. So now, what do you say? Okay, fine, we are done. The government will take care of it and we move out. No, and that is exactly what I love about Water for People, because it's not just the direct impact. Direct impact can always be limited, but indirect impact is where you touch millions of lives, and that suddenly opens the doors for, and forming collectives. We do have the seminars, webinars, where people from across who are working in this sector come together. So now you're not walking alone, you're walking with so many people together, all towards a collective goal. So overall, great journey. I mean, I would do it all over again just to refresh myself, but amazing journey.
Thank you. So clearly, I think we did something, and Bishwa, you've added, I would say, the ghee to the fire, because Anjani is speaking so passionately about water for people. So hopefully, something is seeped in. But I want to come to you a little bit. So the program is really to enable women to get started on their journeys, right, in governance. And it's not that you do the program and you're on the board on day two of completing the program. It also requires the nonprofits on the other side very often leap of faith, because the sector tends to be a little guardrailed and close. So, you'll find the same set of 100, 200, 300 people that we are talking to, and it requires great, I would actually think, generosity of organizations to open up and say, okay, let's try somebody who is completely new and different to the sector. So, Vishwa, my question to you is, there is the legal board which will do compliance and all of that, and we won't get into that. But with people like Anjani and Manju and in other organizations, other people coming on who are playing an advisory board role, how would you distinguish from the governance lens, right? So there is compliance, which the legal board will do and will continue to do, and it's taking responsibility for. But and this is slightly a leading question, and you can challenge me on it, is to say that the role of contributing to the organization, which is what every good board must do, can also be played by the advisory board members, right? I'd love to hear your comments on it, especially in the context of this program, because what we're trying to do is to expose women to the journey ahead, to say that start off as advisory board members, stay on as advisory board members if you want to, but definitely play a non-transactional role with the governance of the organization.
Right. Yeah, I think it's an important question. Although you are saying that the point about governance, we will not beleaguer on it because we have only one board that plays a dual role.
Yeah.
That we take as a granted. It's very important, the governance part, and that's the core, and that will happen. But when we were thinking of what kind of people we need on the board and the advisory, that had to do with the stage that we were in as an organization at that point in time, right? So when we started out, the focus was on enabling access. That was primarily infrastructure, like Anjani mentioned, you take 1,000, then next 2,000, till you saturate the district, and then but that we did for 15 years. We generated a lot of learning, generated a lot of credibility through that. But during this period, a lot of things had changed. I mean, policy, like you mentioned, Jal Jeevan Mission, public investment. India has the world's largest public investment program on drinking water, never before. So that came out as an opportunity. On the other hand, because we are dealing with water, climate change was an overhang on everything that we had done so far. Because we would build a hand pump, let's say, or an infrastructure, a cyclone will come and wash it away. So how long? I mean, this we keep building and rebuilding. Jal Jeevan Mission is a lot of 90% of the drinking water comes from groundwater, right? And groundwater is fast depleting. I mean, if you are both in Bangalore, I mean, nobody will know that better but from you. So these skills we didn't have. Now we have to be future ready. As an executive body, I mean, we are still have the perspectives of the past or barely of the present. So we needed people who could guide us on the emerging problems or emerging opportunities. So we mapped that. So climate change was one, groundwater related, because we moved from engineering to resource understanding, and we didn't have that who could guide us on that. Jal Jeevan Mission, we wanted to collaborate with the government because there's no way government is the biggest customer of scale. We didn't want to leave that out, but we didn't know anything about how government works. So we needed people from government experience who could guide us. And the critical, because if you followed the trend in the sector, the funding, the foreign funding, especially and the Indian funding, the nature of the funding has also changed. And we needed people who are interested in these networks, and that kind of guided the selection. So we were lucky to have very eminent people from the government, one very senior person from the Central Groundwater Board, one very senior person from West Bengal Ministry. Uh, we have a very eminent economist, environmental economist, who's an academic. And then we have very two eminent people from the corporate world who are very passionate, who are entrenched in donor networks. I mean, they have that will come to, I mean, how much value we have derived. But these kind of parameters actually were already in place that we were looking out and see if we can align it with the interests of people.
Yes.
But that one I will add from my own experience in the selection process, which comes from my own learning, and this is related to the first question that you asked, that we are a bit cagey about. This sector is bit closed in some sense. So the two reasons why we wanted to break that, one was water itself. It touches everyone. You can't escape it till the time we are born and till we die. It is there with us. But we are kind of ghettoized. Right? There are so-called
Yeah.
experts who will work on this, NGOs who will work on other. But in reality, it touches whether you are in urban area, rural area. It will touch everyone. You are a farmer. You work in corporate offices, but not everybody is thinking about water.
Yeah.
Right, especially in the urban areas. So we don't even know whether we are part of the problem or part of the solution.
Yeah.
So the idea was to break the shackles and make it accessible.
To
And
everyone.
if people are willing, then we create an opportunity for people to engage.
Yeah.
And I mentioned one last board member, the seventh, there is a filmmaker. Imtiaz Ali is there and he's got a large youth following.
Yeah.
So that was another criteria. See, our time is done in some ways, right? So the youth are the future. We are believers. They will be the future leaders. They think differently. They act differently,
Yeah.
and they can really make a change. How do we tap into the power of youth in a large
Yeah.
way?
Yeah.
And that through Imtiaz Ali's following, we thought that would be a good mix.
Yeah.
So there is science to guide us. There is people from the government to tell us about the government bits. People from the corporate who bring in totally different kind of skills
Perspectives.
that
Yeah.
we have operated with in the last 10 years. Yeah, so that was the thinking.
Thank you so much, Vishwa. Anjani, did we lose her?
She dropped out. She's back. Yeah.
No, she's back. Is she back? Yes. Anjani,
Yes, yes.
so I'm going to come to a slightly more practical question, right? So I think you did the course, you did the program, we connected you to more than one organization, this worked out. What was the kind of initial investment that you had to make in terms of time, availability, engagement, and all of that? And I know that you are an outlier in some sense, so just bearing that in mind. Any tips for people who are considering the program, what will make it easier for them, actually what will make it more meaningful for them, forget easier, right, to
Yeah.
get started.
So I think one thing that we all need to know is there is a time investment required. And I think when you were interviewing us at the beginning itself, you
Yes.
were asking, what's the type of time you can invest?
Correct.
Right? That said, what I realize is the folks are really accommodating. So every time we have a board meeting, we have a FinCom meeting, or we have a GNP meeting, the question will be like, this is the timing, are you available? And just imagine they have to match the availability of 6, 7 people who have very tight schedules. But every single time I had an issue or I had a conflict, it was accommodated. So you will have meetings, you will have some of the conversations, like, I sort of became a treasurer now. So there is a constant this thing, can you approve this? This is the fund. There will be a time investment, but then that is what you signed up for.
Correct.
That's what you signed up for. And if you don't do that, that's not doing justice to the program. And at the same time, know that no one is tying you down to some schedule or some time. They are being accommodative. They understand your issues, and you have to be, it's a give and take. That's all.
How much time did you have to invest in learning and understanding? Because I know that you did that, right? With the program, with the people. It's not a bunch of tasks that you have to do. That's not it, right? So I think you do it naturally, because I know you're a generally curious person, but I think just if you had to say, okay, this is a good first step, right? What would that be?
Yeah. So what was very interesting about Water for People is they created a course for board members. So because board members keep changing,
Yeah.
so there is, a set of material that is shared. Like right at the beginning, I remember Bishwa shared one long document saying, read at your leisure. This is a vision document. So like, I don't know, I lucked out, honestly. I lucked out with Bishwa and with Water for People. But I have got enough material, and constantly we are talking a lot during the board meetings as well, saying, you know what, we are trying to enter this new state or this new area. This is a technology innovation. So in the beginning, you try to understand the vision, you try to just go through the material. After that, it's just natural. It comes automatically and you're listening in all the time.
You make it sound so easy. Uh, Bishwa, I'm going to come to you, right? So, and just in terms of what will help the audience when we send this out is we also find that nonprofits, because they're so busy just doing the work that they're doing, and we are already as a sector understaffed, under-resourced. There are 20 new things that are coming up every day. You're firefighting, all of that. I think what was really very um, very interesting to me was the effort that and the time investment that you guys also made, right? So did you plan for it? What the conversations and what point? And I'm sure there were people that not maybe out of the program, but otherwise who you may have considered, who you may not have pursued thereafter as well, right? So aside of the factors that you mentioned that you bore in mind when you set out a selection process, just in terms of investment of time, effort, material, what should a nonprofit of your size, scale, type think about before they think about expanding the board itself?
Yeah, so I think so. We are committed to the idea. So we know going in, we know that we have to invest the time,
Yeah,
and it is a that's why we call it an investment because it will pay off in the long run. And the more we invest in the beginning, it, it will be better for both sides actually
yeah,
in the long run. So, ideally, you already have a very immersive program when on
yes,
board, which is already very helpful for them to know firsthand. Because when you read, when you hear, it's very different from when you are actually there and experiencing it.
correct.
So, I think because our own lives were shaped like that, and I'm sure if there's an opportunity to get exposed firsthand to different situations, and that is why in the we board cycle of meetings, we try to have one board meeting close to the field where we work because we are offices in Delhi, but we work across 6 states. And so it's a distributed, unlike many local NGOs where it is easier to organize a meeting and decide.
Yeah,
Uh, so that I think will help or in both understanding what we do because there is everybody is strapped for time, but yet very passionate to contribute in some way. Uh, but that has to be made seamless and that has to be made very effective. So initially, because we got many board members at the same time, we wanted diversity. We got a very rich diversity by way of board. But managing diversity is also not easy, right? From a board point
exactly.
of view, I
Yeah,
mean, very strong intellectual people from government, academics, and corporate, and then arts, culture. For them to bond, we have to create those situations where the coherence can come basically. Otherwise, as executive, what we are listening to by way of advice, by way of input, it sounds very good, but we are limited by our own capacity to absorb everything and make it into a coherent whole and deploy it. Otherwise, if there's no action based on the advice that
yeah,
we, they will lose interest. So we are mindful of that, and we try to have a balance between the governance related work, which are so-called admin kind of work, which is
yeah,
very important, need to be done, with the whole reason of why they want to be part of the development sector is to build understanding. Like Anjani is saying, not to give back, but to take it in. And I totally relate to that because this is a small story or how I landed up here, my own journey. So 94 back then, Arti, the industry that it is today, development, it wasn't like that then. We had
yeah,
very little clue till I was doing chemistry in Hindu here in Delhi, I had no clue of NGOs or development sector. Where is science and but then it is the exposure through IFM. You experience a different kind of reality, and once you have experienced that, you can't walk away.
Correct.
So when we decided to go back to the sector, there's a bit of a hubris from this place of privilege that I was getting in. What the privilege in those days was just a new education, a MBA degree,
Yeah.
and few places in the world that we traveled, and landed up in a tribal village in Gujarat. Now, with this knowledge and skill, I will change. It just took 1 week for me to be put in place that nothing works. Nobody understood anything I was saying. All I got in return were blinks.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, even? So, that was a learning that has stayed with me all these years, many times over. That you have to meet people where they are. You can't
Correct.
expect um, to people to start responding to because just because you think you are so great or your knowledge, even though practically it may make sense. So there's a lot of unlearning for me that happened before I got into learning first and then trying to make any beautiful, meaningful contribution. And that if that's a something of a human that is cuts across all, then everybody will have that learning cycle. So knowing
Correct.
that, how do we make it easier for people to understand and get a hang of the nuances without imposing something from the external that the team will not understand, or even if you understand, we don't have the capacity to do, and that will give rise to frustration on both the sides then, and that will take away from the meaning or the reason why they want to join the sector. And if you're not able to create that opportunity for them to operate, then it's a loss. And it's not just what they give to water for people, but what we think they can take back to their own ecosystems, their own networks of people that we cannot dream of accessing or reaching.
Yeah.
So we are mindful of that, and I think it will be a gradual process. We are, it's a very settled board now, and we enjoy these meetings that Anjani is talking about, this committee meetings and the board meetings, and
Yeah.
gradually, I mean, started getting the senior leadership team part of this meeting. And it's not a compliance, it's not a
Of course.
reporting, and it's much of a trying to make it a vibrant space. The kind of questions, because we have blind spots as
Yeah.
executives, right? So, but how do we remain open and engage with the ideas and the concepts and the thinking that they are bringing in, which is the reason why we wanted them in the first
Lovely.
place. But how do we absorb it? And
Yeah. So two words I'm going to pick on, and Anjani, I'm going to ask you to respond to both. One is unlearning. We have actually been accused of emphasizing too much on unlearning in the program, as you know, basically, saying that nothing, nothing, which is also as you were caught too, but that's changed. I promise. That's that's changed because, of course, I also come deeply from the sector, and everybody grows and evolves and changes, and I find myself even more of the view that unless you unlearn every day, you really can't contribute. So it's not that you can learn every day; you have to actually unlearn every day, and that's just a personal point of view. But I know that in the first few cohorts, this was, and it continues to be. By the way, that's not. It's changed, but it's not gone away. To say that what you might know is only different and not better, and what the sector brings to you is a very different kind of knowledge, right? So how do you find the way to integrate in some way? So I'd like you to comment a little bit about that one, and two, just Bishwa's point earlier about what you took back to your own context, where you are, leadership at the place that you are, and how this experience may have um, even gotten you to think about things differently. And I'll add a third one, which is, I think this program is about really providing women like you an opportunity to just explore a very different avatar of yourself in some ways, right? And I don't want to bind us to any, sort of gender frameworks or anything like that, but just to say that, I strongly feel that we need far many more women role models in leadership out there. We simply do not and cannot have enough, just given where we are as a nation. We're doing better every day. That is the diehard optimist in me, but it is still, we still have a long way to go. So just if you can comment on, the content, what you took back, and how you're applying what you're exposed to here in your own context, if anything at all.
Yeah, I think 3 points. One
Yes.
is unlearning.
Yes.
I would just add one more, unlearn, relearn.
Yeah.
These are the two
Great.
things that just kept coming to me. Because, in wherever you are, it doesn't matter whether you're in corporate, you're in
Yeah.
this sector, that sector, right? After so many years, like 20, 25 years in corporate, 27 years in corporate, you are modeled in one way. Your thinking gets driven in one way, and you are like, these are the steps I need to take. And you trust me, I thought it is exactly the same steps that apply anywhere and everywhere in the world. I said, I can run this universe with these steps. Okay, then you come here, you say the very first step, it doesn't work. Now, what do you do? How do you go to even second step? Because it doesn't work in this sector. So then you say, oh, by the way, you know what? You have to do things differently. You have to do things differently. You have to think differently. So, Bishwa has done an amazing job with the board. You won't believe the board is so diverse, and every time I listen to each one, they bring in a completely different viewpoint. It's like there are, IAS officers. There is, like he mentioned, Imtiaz Ali, who does some things of the board as well for Water for People. Then there is an economist. Then there I'm sitting there. So when I look, I really hats off to him for managing, so many diverse individuals, all a part of one board, right? So you start listening to them. And very recently, just a couple of weeks back, we had one meeting. And when a person brought up, one of our board members, the president, brought up something, I told him that, and he was asking, Anjani, what do you think of this? I said, you know what, this is learning for me. I said, I didn't even think of it in this direction. Thank you, because I learned something here. So, yeah, there is unlearning, there is learning, there is relearning. And Aarti, when you kept talking about unlearning, I didn't believe you. Now, if I have to talk about unlearning, I can tell everyone who's listening in or from any of the cohorts who has not yet gone into the board, there will be unlearning required, and you just have to be humble about it because the same steps don't work. And number two, in terms of what did I take back? We keep talking about, thinking in a box, thinking outside of a box. And then there is this new concept of thinking in different boxes.
Yeah.
And I have started thinking in different boxes. Every problem, any situation that you get into, there is no one solution, there is no one way to solve. If you think of it in this way, you can do it this way. And so, what that gave me is, in my own world, I have learned more to embrace different ideas, completely tangential ideas, and learned how to bring them all together to make a more meaningful outcome. So that was one big takeaway for me. And women role models, I can't thank you enough, Aarti. Uh, this women on boards has been an amazing thing, because not because women are less capable, but mainly because women don't network so much.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about, equals. We keep talking, now everyone is equal, but we are not equal. Let's accept that.
Yeah.
At home, when your support system doesn't come, who's the first one to roll up the sleeves? It's the
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
Okay, so when your child is unwell, who's the first person to offer? Unless you have, some
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
meeting out there, the first person to offer is the women. So in the midst of so many things at home, at work, where do I have time to network? And when you don't network, you don't get to know some of these opportunities where actually you
Yeah.
can play a role. And I think that's exactly the space that Women on Boards filled for me.
Yeah.
Someone who could connect me to the other side of the sector where I'm able to learn, I'm able to contribute, and I'm able to feel much better than what I was earlier.
Thank you for saying that, Anjani. I know one thing that I'm going to say it, and it's an important point. Your cohort is the cohort I mentioned to all the other cohorts, because you were so vivacious and vibrant as a cohort, but you were also the rowdiest of them all. So I keep saying, and they set like very different benchmarks for fun. You have like a room full of highly enthusiastic women. The energy there is palpable. It is something that's really phenomenal. And I think that the networking bit is, I know lots of people have connected with each other for various things offline, and it feels nice that the space was created. You, like I said, like you're saying, we need more of these spaces. And I'm going to come to Bishop for one last question, and then we're at 10 minutes. I'm going to open it up for questions if there are any at all, any people listening in. Bishop, I'm going to put you on the spot, right? So what is the, he's already like raised his eyebrows. So you're talking to two women here. So be careful of what you say. Is Okay. How do you see women board members necessarily adding value, if differently at all, than others, right? Do you see, is there a difference at all?
No, definitely. I think that's a very important question, Aarti, because in the selection criteria, we knew that we wanted women,
Yeah.
right? We wanted women, but we didn't want to come in and start talking about women.
Yeah.
That's not why we want them for. So even when Anjani talks of data and technology, which was, by the way,
Yeah.
another criteria, or governance or water management, it already has a gender tick on all these things simply because of the journey that she mentioned, her
Correct.
lived experience. But from a development sector point of view, like the gender discourse, the gender as a
Yeah.
nuance, I mean, so we have, for example, this Mr. Dibindu Sarkar, who's IAS from West Bengal government, very senior, and he was leading a program on gender. He
Lovely.
led the sanitation campaign in Bengal, and he's so passionate about gender. So I think after all these years, we've seen that, I mean, women can be patriarchal, men
Of
can
course.
be very gender sensitive as well, and that plays out in the board. I think nobody is using any card, so to say, but the perspectives, the discussions have gender infused in them, which is what makes it very seamless and very organic. So it's not something that is made up in some sense, and that has a rubbing off effect on everyone. Um, so that way, I think I'm very grateful to have found these people. I mean, it did not have gone this way. I mean, people come in
Yeah.
with different perspectives, different ideologies, and just because you're a woman, you need not carry that uh, uh, sensitivity as well. But it has worked out wonderfully well, and not just with all three women now who are there in the board. I mean, there's Manju who is also from the same
Correct.
cohort, and there's Madhu Verma. So it's absolute delight. And initially, like I was bit, I mean, it was a scary proposition, like
Yeah.
totally different point of views, right? So from corporate, from government, now what do you do? You are listening. How do you take it back to the team?
Yeah.
So luckily, on the other side, we have very, very passionate, very, very committed, rooted people, simple people from the field
Yeah.
who are the oxygen. And all the time, I'm thinking everything that I'm getting from the board, how do we make use of it
Yeah.
for for our people? So women on board, I would say, is is absolutely, fabulous for the sector. The role, the way you have positioned. Only thing, sometimes it comes to the mind, when we talk of gender, if that is the idea, I don't know what the charter, when we are working with violence against women, there's a group called Shakti in Bangalore, I remember. Jacinta Pinto, now it comes back. She had told me because the focus was entirely on working with women, who are battered women, and how do you use their agency to regain their lives. But then at some point we discovered that we are dealing with the victims and not the perpetrators or the side of the problem. So if we talk gender, then we should find a way to get the other side of the coin, the men, into
The discourse.
inculcating these perspectives, values, understanding about what equality is. And it's not just gender, on a range of subjects, which for many it's still a blind spot in the mainstream society. But that safe space for women only, I accept that. But if it is possible for WOP to create a
Just
cohort
OB.
where people
Just
like me,
OB.
WOMD,
Yeah.
uh,
So I think we're thinking about that, and it's a good way to end this webinar. We're thinking about opening it up at some point. Hopefully, we will. I think you're right, Vishwa. So that it's not so much about gender as in gender at all. So it was a good answer. Thank you, thank you for that. Um, I'm going to sort of, wrap this up to, first of all, I think, I don't know if there are questions, but I'll pause for 30 seconds to see if there are any at all. But we do want to send this out with your permission to a whole, the recording on YouTube to a whole bunch of people. Also have a request to just, share the idea, share the program with, Bishwa, with other nonprofits. We always want, good nonprofits. So thinking deeply about just governance and things like that. We have to raise the narrative and the bar on the value that boards can add. So, would look to you to just send the message out. And Anjani, thank you for always pointing people to the program. I know that you do that. But if there are folks, our next cohort is coming up in 2 weeks time, in August 28th, and we definitely want more people like you to be part of it. So do share the program details out if you can. And I'll wait for 30 seconds. I think we have 3 people here already. But Ritu?
I don't see questions, Aarti. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you both so much for your time. We'll be in touch, and please be the flag bearers of this program. We are a country of 1 billion plus people. We need at least half of them to be in play the roles that you're playing, Anjani. So then we want
absolutely.
thank you, Aarti.
Truly grateful and appreciate you 3 giving time, 1 hour of your precious time today to us. Really grateful. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Anjani. Thank you, Aarti.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You.